What is up, everybody? Mr. Curtis here. Welcome to Unit 4.3. We're talking about imperialism. We just got done the one on Africa. This one's on India. If you forgot what imperialism is, it's okay. That's what I'm here for. Imperialism is when one country goes in and conquers another country and forces their beliefs and ideas on them. There are four causes of imperialism: nationalism, economic reasons or motivations, religion, and social Darwinism. We talked about Africa and how the Europeans went in there and started conquering the entire continent of Africa because of competition and desire for resources and spreading religion and the belief that the Europeans were superior to all other people. And that was Africa. That's the cause of imperialism. Now we're going to hop into India, which is another very important region, has a ton of natural resources, and the Europeans have had their eye on it for a while and have been in that area for a while. So just a little background, if you forgot that we talked about this back in Unit 1, and I don't know if you remember anything in Unit 1, it was all the way back in September. I know it's tough out there. We talked about a couple different empires that existed around 1750. One of them was called the Mughal Empire. They were in South Asia, also known as India, and the government, the group of people who ruled were Muslim. They came from the northern part, if you remember this. I don't know if you do. So I'm going to do a little review. So they came down and they invaded back in the 1500s, and they invade India. And this Muslim group of people rule over a Hindu majority. So most people in India are of religion called Hinduism, and this government is Muslim. And unlike a lot of other governments at the time, they do allow the Muslim people do allow the Hindus to practice their religion freely. They do allow them to work in the government. They do keep local princes who are Hindu in charge. There's a lot of religious toleration, to be tolerant of other religions, almost the Enlightenment idea almost, even though this wasn't connected to the Enlightenment. However, by the 1800s, okay, so we went back to the 1500s, so fast forward 300 years, by the 1800s, this Mughal Empire is declining. And the British, who've been there through merchants and trade and activity, are slowly gaining power. So Mughal on the decline, these British merchants are on the incline or increase. And as a result of this change, these British merchants almost have their own type of government where they're ruling over the Indian people, and they need soldiers to do this. So they hire soldiers. They go around India and they start hiring people because they're so wealthy off of their merchant activity and the Industrial Revolution and their trade and all that stuff. They decide to hire soldiers, and the group of soldiers that they hire are referred to as sepoys. And this would be your traditional sepoy outfit right here, although sometimes they wore shorts as well, but that's another story for another day. And these sepoys are treated horribly. Now, we got this period of social Darwinism. When I say social Darwinism, a lot of people have been asking questions about it. Social Darwinism is the belief that people who are not European are beneath them. So if you grow up in Britain with this mentality that you are superior and you are taught this and trained this, and you believe it's rooted in some kind of science, when you go to India, when you're interacting with these Indian soldiers, you're going to treat them pretty badly. And these are all young, 20-something macho type of guys who are there from Britain. So it's really a recipe for disaster. And what happened was the sepoys, because they're treated so badly, rumors start spreading in India that the British have put on the cartridges, and cartridges that you put in a weapon, that on the cartridges, they have put pig and cow fat to grease up the cartridges so they slide into the gun easier. Basically, if you know anything about Hindus or Muslims, Hindus revere the cow, and any kind of cow grease or cow fat is seen as sacrilegious to ingest for a Hindu. Meanwhile, Muslims view the pig as an animal that is beneath humans to eat, and it's something that you shouldn't eat. So most devout Muslims are not eating any type of pork, no bacon, no ham. Rumors spread. Now, almost everyone in India is either Hindu or Muslim. So one of those two religions are these sepoys. So rumors spread that the cartridge on the gun it has pig and cow fat on it. And in order to put the gun into the cartridge, you have to bite off the top to get the bullets out, and that these Hindus and Muslims are actually ingesting something that is against their religion. As a result of this, the sepoys in 1857 and 1858 rebel against the British. They fight back against the British, and the British, they attempt to overthrow the British, similarly to what we talked about in the unit in Africa, where people are going to attempt to rise up and rebel against this. This is totally unsuccessful. The British are industrialized. They bring in weapons. They have cannons. They have more guns, and it's put down. It's not put down like that. It takes about a year, but it is put down, and those who led this rebellion are punished. However, the British government way, way back in England, in London, are going to say, we need to take direct control of this country. We have to have good government control and good organization, because we can't let these guys, these young British merchants, take control and cause all these issues. So we need to take control. It's too profitable for us. So as a result of the Sepoy Rebellion, and as a result, India is going to be fully imperialized by the British. And there's a couple things that we see here, a couple things that happen. Number one is the government structure. Queen Victoria, who was the Queen of England at the time, and the Queen of England for a very long time in England, she actually has her own era called the Victorian period or Victorian England. She abolishes these merchants. She says, you guys are done. You're not in charge anymore. They're called the British East India Company. That's why it says BEIC. You're out of here. And the government of England takes direct control over India, meaning they directly govern India. They make all the decisions. The people of India are now loyal, or supposed to be loyal, to the directives of the Queen and of Parliament in England. They call this new government the British Raj, and this is the flag of the British Raj. This is, you can obviously see the British flag here, and then this is more of a traditional Indian piece right here. They appoint people to be in charge of India. They call them viceroys. So there are people who go, and you need a civil service exam, and you recruit bureaucrats, and you do all these things to make it so you organize the government. So you are in charge. You have these people underneath you. The Queen and Parliament are in charge. You appoint two people who are called viceroys or viceroyals who run the government. And then anyone who works for the government needs to pass an exam to do it. You need Indian people, so you recruit Indian people to do it. But the people who are at the top, the most important people, are always going to be British. All right, so Indians have some power, but really the British are in control. That's number one, the government run by the British. Number two, it's all about the money. All right, so the number two is economic. It's all about the make money, more money, more problems. And as a result of this, outcome number two is they're going to force the Indians to produce products that the British want. There are a couple things. One is called opium, which is an addictive drug, which we'll talk about in the China video because the Chinese are going to use it. It is the root of what we would consider an opioid or heroin today. They produce coffee, they produce tea, they produce cotton, all of these products that make the British a ton of money. The British are going to say to the Indians, you have to do this now. You don't have a choice of what crops you plant. You plant what we tell you to plant, and we're going to clear land as a result of this. We're going to cut down trees, we're going to deforest, we're going to do all these things. Also, the British need to transport these crops. They need to bring them from central India, coming back here. They need to transport them from here in central India all the way to the coastline to ships. So they say, we're going to build railroads, we're going to build telegraphs, we're going to build canals to help this transportation. As a result of all this, Britain calls India the jewel of the crown, meaning that on the British crown, this is a symbolic thing, on the British crown, the most important jewel of the British Empire, the most important thing is India because it makes them so much money. And last but not least, this is kind of what I call the oopsie daisy effect, like unintended consequence. The British take the smartest, the most promising Indians and bring them back to England to learn in England and study at British schools. And as a result, these Indian people are going to go to Britain and they're going to study in England and they're going to start learning about English ideas, not only about government, but also about the Enlightenment and about liberty and freedom. And these people are going to come back and be like, bro, you're teaching us all this stuff. Like you're the center of the Enlightenment and the center of democracy. And then we're going back to our country and we don't even have a say in our government anymore. Nah, not cool. So these people who get educated in Britain end up coming back to India and they're like, screw this. We're going to form a government. We're going to form a group of nationalist group to try and overthrow the British eventually. And they call themselves the Indian National Congress. And the guy who's eventually going to lead this Indian National Congress is a dude you might have heard of at some point named Mahatma Gandhi. And the Hindus are basically saying kind of what the 13 colonies said. We just want representation. We just want representation. We're not trying to like totally kill all the British. We're not trying to make them disappear. We just want representation. And the Hindus primarily make up this Indian National Congress. And as a result, the Muslims form their own group called the All National Congress, and the two are going to compete with each other, but both have the same goal to try and get rid of the British. That's a lot of stuff, all right? And this is kind of a quick little overview on India, but as always, if you have any questions, you let me know. We'll get more into India. They're going to come up later after World War I, but we'll talk about it later. Any questions? Let me know. I'm out.